Hello, and welcome to episode 83 of Prog Review. And this time around, I'll be talking about Feels Good to Me by Bill Bruford, this ear album. Before I begin, let's have a little look at the record itself. This is where I hand over to Darren, who's actually opening up the CD for you to have a look at. Take it away, Darren. Thank you, Darren. And here we can see Bruford, Feels Good to Me. That's what she said. I know you love those gags. So here we have the back cover, 1997 EG record. So I've read it's released in 1978 elsewhere. So God knows what that's all about. So let's have a look at the old disky. As you can see, it's the EG Records version. This isn't the recent Bill Bruford reissue. Not much else to say, really. I didn't bother picking up the Bill Bruford reissues. Didn't think it was worth it. I had this one. Now let's get the sleeve out, because the back cover is epic in its crappiness. As you can see, can you read any of that? You can just about read it. Trust me, in real life, it's almost impossible to read, even with my glasses on. The orange on the background is just appalling, but I've enhanced the picture somewhat, so you can read that. See, as the final say, does old Bruford. Oh, that's good to know. So yes, there you go. You get who does the sleeve design, and there's actually there at the bottom. Oh god, blurry. That bit there is an essay by. Oh fucking hell, Darren! Hold it still. There's an essay by Richard Williams. Look at him. He's giving it some. He's going. Hooah! That's what he's doing. Hooah! And look how young they all were then. Oh, yeah, see, Bruford has very kissable lips. Don't you agree? Mwah. So there's all the details there when it was recorded between January and June 1977. And it's put down in August 77 itself, so it was rehearsed and then recorded. And this all runs parallel with UK at the same time, so it's all happening at once. And as you can see, what's we got here? He's only gone and kept the receipt. He's got OCD, that boy, OCD. Let's have a look at this. Virgin Megastore, Champs-Élysées in Paris, Gay Paris, 8th of 7th, 2003. Well, actually, it was this, yes. Yeah, Feels Good to Me. 1696, that's euros, that is. And Pig was growing up EP. This was on my trip to Paris to see King Crimson. There you go. Put that back down. Give you a little bit of background there. So anyway, we've got the lyrics of the songs. If you wish to sing along, tra-la-la-la, tra-la-la-lee. And it even tells you when they're instrumentals or not. Isn't that nice of them? It's really kind. Just in case you didn't know. And there's the essay again by Richard Williams. This time you can actually fucking read it. So it's quite good to get this version. If you'd have got the original LP, you'd have probably sent yourself boss-eyed trying to read the typography. So there you go. I'm doing this so you can quickly scan and read. Look, Wakeman, Wet and Bruford. See, it gives you all the details. You can actually read. If you pause this frame by frame, you'll be able to read the essay. Yeah, but what can you do about it? But there you go. So you get an idea of what went on and what it all looks like, and what you can expect to see if you buy a copy of this. I don't know if this is all reproduced in the new Bruford version. Who knows if he's got the original artwork? Leave a comment in the box below. So there you go. That's been me looking at Bill Bruford's Feels Good to Me. Now I've just got to hand back to that other bloke, Darren. Take it away, Darren. Well, after seeing King Crimson disintegrate before his very eyes, helping a Peter Gabriel-less Genesis tour the world with the Trick of the Tail album, and seeing supergroup Wet and Wakeman and Bruford die before it was born, Bruford put this album together. It was recorded in August 1977, but it wasn't actually released till the following year. Quite close proximity to the UK album. And while this album shares some of the musical DNA with UK, I mean, of course, you've got Bruford and Alan Holdsworth on both albums, the music itself has more in common with its contemporaries Brand X. So, if you throw in some interesting vocal stylings from Annette Peacock, you have quite an eclectic album for Bruford to put out. It's quite interesting. The open, that's not very good, is it? The album opens with classic track Beelzebub, and it's a skittering tune percussion-led blistering piece of jazz fusion. Now, I promise this time around I'm not going to say jazz fusion too many times. I kind of overused it on the last review, kind of wore it out a bit, so I'm going to try and lay off of it. It's truly a memorable piece of music with some great interplay between Bruford and bassist Jeff Berlin, and the guitar melodies are stronger here than anything on the UK album. It's really a superb track. Back to the beginning, begins with some very relaxed synth playing from Dave Stewart, and it sounds, quite lounge-like, it's laid back, that kind of thing. And then the song hits its stride, and then before you know it, Annette Peacock delivers her first vocal of the album. Now, the music is very strong, and Peacock's vocal is quite distracting, especially the way it's been recorded and produced. It's kind of panned in the stereo field, and you've got to kind of come out of your ears. And the only problem is her vocal drowns out the musical bed. And it's a really eccentric way of doing things. It's an eccentric song, but it has a lot of character, a lot of charm. But in equal parts, I could see why some might recoil in horror when they hear it. And I think that what the album's missing is like an instrumental version or a reprise. They did it with UK, why not here? And it would have been nice to hear the actual tune without the vocal somewhere along the line. In fact, what would make an interesting listen is the rehearsal tapes of that Wakeman, Wetton and Bruford supergroup that I mentioned earlier, because they actually rehearsed and recorded the rehearsals of Beelzebub and Back to the Beginning. So there you go. And they also put down 30 Years, which popped up on the UK album. Now that's a bootleg everyone would want to hear. Now the pace slows down for Seems Like a Lifetime Ago Part 1, and it is a genteel ballad with some sensitive horn playing from Kenny Wheeler. And this is like jazz in a more traditional sense of the word. And then it segues into Part 2, which starts off with like a riff borrowed from UK, dun 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 dun, that kind of thing, before moving into a more distinct jazz funk territory. Then the groove settles down and we get a chance to hear the band let off some steam. It moves forward into some quite powerful playing, despite it only being jazz, if you know what I mean. Sample and Hold heads back into Beelzebub territory with more tune percussion, bubbling bass and some great guitar riffing. There's even a middle section that wouldn't be amiss on a King Crimson album. And it moves along at a terrific pace. And just when you start to get bored with one section, it changes and does something else. It's very busy music. Next up is the title track. And from appearances, it sounds like maybe Rick Wakeman had an influence on this. Because some of the keyboard motifs that are used here have a certain Wakeman charm to them. I mean, I might be just reading too much into it, but when you hear it, you do imagine the caped crusader himself, fiddling with his synths over this track. Of course, who knows. But again, this is a frothy instrumental that tootles along at a lovely pace and doesn't bore the listener. Now, this is followed by a track called Either End of August, which for me, this is the kind of the fly in the ointment. It noodles a bit too much, and the playing's okay. There's some really excellent bass and horn playing there, but it sounds a bit like incidental music from a television program, like a cop show or something. It just sounds, that kind of distracting. It's just, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. And then we're back in the groove again for the most excellent If You Can't Stand the Heat, which is jazzy and funky, and it manages to tick all the right boxes. Tight drumming from Bruf, check. Burbling bass from Berlin, check. Soaring guitar from Holdsworth, check. And Stewart holding it all together with his keyboards. Check. It's really good fun. I like this track a lot. And then there's, for me, again, only me, there's a misstep in the running order. We have Springtime in Siberia, which is a track that stands out as a piece that would maybe close an album. It's an album closer, if you know what I mean. It's a slow-paced piece with some lovely melancholic piano and haunting trumpet. It's a cool little number, and it shows that the band could change musical textures and have different styles and sounds on the album. And it also acts as a bit of a portent to come with what Bruford did with Bruford Levin up in upper extremities with the horn playing, Mark Isham and all that. And you can hear it on this album, and Chris Botti, of course. And the album comes to a close with Adios a la Pasada, or Goodbye to the Past, which starts off with bubbling keyboards and some bass, and it's all drowned in reverb. Then suddenly, the band even, it's late, slowly fades in, and we hear the group at full flight, and there's some burning guitar from Holsworth, and then it stops, and Annette Peacock delivers a smoky spoken lyric. It's quite jarring, but it's good. Grabs your attention, and then the band are off again. It's kind of stop-start thing, and it builds to crescendo with Peacock giving some soaring vocals before the song fades out. And I'm not a big fan of fade out, so I'd like, but it kind of fades out. This is what I mean. I don't think that this is necessarily a good end track to an album. I think it should have been put before Springtime in Siberia and actually been swapped around just for pacing's sake. Now, I find this album much more satisfying than the UK debut album. This is jazz, but it's not jazz because it's got that prog sensibility. It's trying to bust out of a genre. It's trying to break new ground. It's rocky, it's funky, it's jazzy. It's trying to be something else, especially with the tune percussion and the way Bruford does things. He has a very distinct style. The only criticism is that the vocal stylings of Annette Peacock can be a little jarring in places. Part of me likes them because they're just blooming weird. Part of me thinks it might have been better off if they were left off or toned down a bit. There's like a little fight going on, in me. Part of me likes it, part of me doesn't. But I guess that's a good thing. It's elicited a reaction from me. I'm not just let it wash over me. It makes you emotional. It makes you go, oh. So it's kind of a good thing, I guess. But this isn't a perfect album by any means. Some of the material is a little bit samey in places, with Bruce hammering out the same rolls and fills here and there. But in saying that, as a solo record, it's strong stuff from a drummer. You know what drummers are like. They produce In the Air Tonight and that kind of stuff. And you have to remember that this was actually a solo project from Bruford, and the band kind of formed out of it. So it's an interesting beginning. So in terms of a rating, I'm going to give this a strong 3.5 Beelzebubs out of 5. That's 3.5 Beelzebubs out of 5, because while this is good, the better album's round the corner. The next one of a kind. So there you go. So there you have it. My name's been Darren. I've been talking about Bill Bruford's Feels Good to Me, and you've been patient for listening this far. The time is coming up to the 11-minute mark, so I better tootle on. Only one more thing to say, and that is thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe, unsubscribe, kiss your granny, tell the dog, tickle me Twitter, sit on my Facebook, social media, blah blah blah, Google Plus, whatever that might be. And we'll do this all again with the next one, which will probably be Brand X product. So look for it. One added feature I'm doing to these reviews is I get a lot of people saying to me, where can I buy this? Where did you get that album? How much did it cost? Blah-de-blah-de-blah. Now, that's great if we all lived in England, but some of you live in far-flung places. So I'm putting a little link in the comment of the Amazon shop, because Amazon ships everywhere and you have localised Amazon's stores. So where appropriate, I'm putting a link into the product. So if you like what I've said and you want to check out the album, you can buy the CD or buy the DVD or even buy the MP3 if the CD is deleted, if you know what I mean. Click in the box below, there's a little linky there for you to buy the product. A little bit of promotion there. So that's it really. Only one more thing to say. Are you ready? Should we do it together? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Prog on!